Investing in others. The question that reveals character. Do you leave people better than you found them? Not richer, not impressed, not intimidated. I mean better. When your name appears on someone's phone, what emotion rises in them? Is it relief, joy, pressure, exhaustion? When you walk into a room, does the atmosphere tighten or soften? We measure success in promotions, platforms, possessions, but heaven measures something far more subtle. What happens to people after they encounter you? They are individuals who move through life like consumers, drawing attention, drawing energy, drawing affirmation. Every conversation revolves around them. Every room must acknowledge them. They may not even mean harm. It's just unconscious gravity. Everything bends towards them. And then there are those, they enter quietly, but something shifts. They listen more than they speak. They notice what others miss. They straighten what is fragile. You may not remember everything they said, but you remember how you felt after being around them. You felt lighter, clearer, seen. That is the impact, not noise. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't intentionally decide what kind of presence they carry. They just exist, reacting, competing, comparing, and protecting. Very few wake up and say, today, someone will be stronger because I showed up. But imagine if that became your mindset. Imagine walking into every interaction, not asking, what can I gain? But asking, what can I give? That shift alone separates ordinary living from extraordinary influence. Because life is not just about advancement, it is about investment. And investment always involves intention. No one accidentally builds a legacy. No one accidentally becomes a source of strength. And no one accidentally leaves people better. It is a decision, a deliberate one. And I want you to think back for a moment. Who changed your life without even realizing it? Was it a teacher who believed in you before you believed in yourself? A friend who listened when everyone else dismissed you? A mentor who opened a door you couldn't open on your own? Notice something. The people who shaped you the most did not always give you money. They gave you belief. They gave you courage. They gave you opportunity. They invested in you. The scripture says that a generous person prospers, and that whoever refreshes others will themselves be refreshed. That principle isn't just about finance, it's about energy, encouragement, access, wisdom. You become wealthy in ways that cannot be measured when you live to elevate others. But let's be honest, that's not the default of human instinct. The default of every human instinct is self-preservation. We protect our opportunities, guide our influence, climb quietly, and hope no one overtakes us. Because somewhere deep inside, we fear there isn't enough. Not enough success, not enough recognition, not enough space at the top. So we compete, even subtly, even spiritually. But what if success isn't a ladder? What if it's a table? And instead of climbing over people, you were meant to pull up chairs. A different kind of confidence, the kind that says, there is enough for me, so I can help you rise too. Do you leave people better than you find them? That question exposes maturity because immature people need rooms. Mature people build people. And the interesting thing is this: when you focus on building people, rooms eventually open on their own. But when you focus only on rooms, you often lose the people who could have worked with you. There is a quiet law woven into life. The more you pour into others, the more your own capacity expands. Not immediately, not always visibly, but consistently. The world teaches accumulation, but the kingdom teaches multiplication. And multiplication begins with investment. So, before we go any further, let's pause for a moment. Think about your last three conversations. Did someone walk away strengthened or drained? Did someone feel heard or dismissed? Did someone gain courage or lost it? This is not condemnation, it's calibration. Because the moment you become aware of your impact, you can choose to elevate it. And that choice, that simple shift from self focused living to investment driven living, may become one of the most powerful decisions you ever make. About 15 years ago, I took a trip to Ibadan, Oyo State. It wasn't a dramatic trip, no turning point conference, no life altering announcement, just a journey. But sometimes the most significant shifts in our lives happen in the quiet, ordinary moments. I remember sitting there, listening to a sermon, not streaming, not live, a simple recorded message. And I can't even tell you everything the preacher said that day. But one sentence, one single line cut through everything else. He said, "You will always have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want." When I heard that, something went off inside of me. Not emotional, not loudly, but clearly. It felt like a key turning in a lock I didn't even know was there before. Because at that time in my life, like many people, I was focused on progress, on advancement, on growth, on becoming something. And there's nothing wrong with that if you ask me. Ambition is not evil. But I realized something uncomfortable that day. Most of my focus was on what I was building for myself, my goals, my vision, my next step. And suddenly that sentence flipped the script. What if the fastest way forward wasn't forward? What if the path to having what I wanted was helping someone else reach what they desired? It sounded almost too simple, too generous, too selfless. But deep down, I knew it was true because when I reflected on my own journey, the doors that opened for me opened because someone else decided to help me. Someone made a call. Someone gave encouragement. Someone shared insight. Someone believed in potential before results appeared. I did not arrive anywhere alone. And that realization humbled me. So, right there, quietly, I made a decision. Not a loud vow, not a public declaration, just a personal commitment. I am going to look for ways to invest in others intentionally, consistently, even when it is inconvenient. And let me be honest with you, it wasn't easy because investing in people exposes you. It costs time, it costs attention, sometimes it costs comfort, and sometimes it feels unnoticed. But over time, I began to see something remarkable: momentum. Not even momentum, not overnight success, but momentum. The more I poured into others, the more my own life seemed to expand. Opportunities came from unexpected places. Connections formed organically. Trust grew naturally. It was though a principle had been activated. The scripture speaks of this idea when it says that one person gives freely and gains even more, while another withholds unduly and comes to poverty. That principle isn't magic, it is alignment. When you live to lift others, you align yourself with a law that multiplies. And I began to understand something powerful. Investment in people is not charity, it is strategy, not manipulation, but multiplication. Because when you help someone rise, you create strength around you. When you strengthen others, you strengthen the environment you live in. And slowly, I realized something else. Investing in others changes you before it changes them. It softens your ego, it matures your perspective, it reduces insecurity because you begin to see there is enough success, enough opportunity, enough purpose. You don't lose by lifting others. You grow, rather. And that decision I made years ago in Ibadan wasn't about becoming important. It wasn't about becoming impactful. There's a difference. Importance seeks visibility. Impact creates legacy. And legacy is built through investment. Do you know that there is a quiet law that governs life? You may not see it immediately. You may not always understand how it works, but it never stops working. It is the law of sowing, not just into the ground, but also into people. Everything in life multiplies according to what is planted. Words multiply, encouragement multiplies, neglect multiplies, bitterness also multiplies. Whatever you consistently deposit into others eventually grows. Scripture says, give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Most people hear that and think about money. But generosity is much wider than currency. You can give attention. You can give time. You can give belief. You can also give access. You can give correction wrapped in compassion. And when you do, something invisible begins to shift. Have you ever noticed that the people who constantly encourage others seems to attract encouragement themselves? The ones who open doors often find doors opening for them. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. When you live as a giver of strength, you build strength into your environment. And eventually, that environment strengthens you back. But here is where most people miss it. Sowing does not produce immediate harvest. You plant today, you water consistently, you wait patiently. And in waiting, doubt creeps in. Is this even worth it? Does this even matter? Why am I always the one pouring? This is where many people stop investing in others because they don't see instant return. But the law of sowing was never about instant gratification. It was about eventual multiplication. When you invest in someone's confidence, you may not see the result tomorrow, but 5 years later, that person might step into a position that shifts your entire network. When you mentor someone quietly, you may not receive applause, but one day they may carry your values into rooms you never enter. This is how legacy spreads, not by domination, but by duplication. And here's something deeper. When you sow into people, you are participating in something eternal. Building faith, money fluctuates, platform rise and fall. But people carry influence across generations. The time you spend strengthening one person can ripple further than any speech you ever give. There is a proverb that says, a generous soul will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. That word refresh is powerful. It means to water, to revive, to bring relief. Imagine becoming known as someone who waters dry places, someone who brings clarity where confusion sits, someone who strengthens weary hearts. That kind of presence becomes magnetic, not because you demand attention, but because people feel safe around you. And safety is rare. In a world driven by competition and comparison, a person who genuinely invests in others becomes a rare treasure. But let's confront something honestly. Sometimes we don't invest in others because we are afraid. Afraid they might surpass us. Afraid they might forget us. Afraid that if we teach them everything we know, we will lose our advantage. That fear is rooted in scarcity thinking. But abundance thinking understands something powerful. Your value does not decrease when someone else rises. Your light does not dim when another light shines. In fact, rooms become brighter. The strongest leaders understand this. The most impactful mentors understand this. They are not threatened by growth. They produce it. And the moment you shift from competing with people to cultivating people, your entire life begins to move differently because now you are no longer chasing position. You are building multiplication, and multiplication always outlives position. So ask yourself, what am I planting into the people around me? Is it criticism? Is it comparison? Or courage? Because whatever you consistently sow, you will eventually stand in its harvest one day. I once heard it said that there are three keys to abundant living: caring about others, caring for others, and sharing with others. At first glance, those sound simple, almost obvious, but lived consistently, they are transformational. Let's start with caring. Caring is more politeness, it is presence. In a world full of noise, true presence is rare. Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person was physically there, but mentally somewhere else? Nodding, smiling, but waiting for their turn to speak. That's not caring, that's performing. Caring is when you listen without preparing your reply. It's when you notice the slight pause in someone's voice and ask, "Are you okay?" It's when you remember details people mentioned weeks ago. A mother who stays up late helping her child with her homework, even after a long day. A friend who sends a message just to say, "I was thinking about you." A colleague who defends someone who isn't in the room. These are small acts, but small acts accumulate. I've learned that sometimes the greatest investment you can give someone is attention, undivided, unrushed, unconditional. Yes, what's interesting? When you consistently care, people begin to trust you. Trust opens doors that talent alone cannot. Now let us talk about daring. Daring for others means believing in them before evidence appear. It means speaking possibility into someone who only sees limitation. There have been moments in my life when someone told me, "You can do more than this." At the time, I didn't even see it myself, but their belief became a mirror. And slowly, I began to grow into image they saw. People have a way of becoming what you encourage them to be. When you dare for someone, you lend them courage. You challenge them gently. You push them forward. You call out greatness they have not yet recognized. And sometimes that's uncomfortable because daring for someone means risking rejection. What if they don't listen? What if they misunderstand? What if they outgrow you? But real investment isn't safe, it's courageous. Then there's sharing. Sharing is not just about resources, it's about access. Sometimes sharing means introducing someone to a connection, recommending their name in a room, teaching them what you learned the hard way. It could even mean sharing your mistakes, letting someone learn from your scars instead of handing their own. There was a time when I hesitated to share certain insights. I thought, I worked hard to learn this. Why should I give it away just like that? But I realized something. Knowledge multiplies when shared, wisdom deepens when given, and opportunities expand when opened for others. When you share generously, you create a network strengthened around you, not because you are manipulating outcomes, but because you are building people. Here's what I've discovered over time: caring softens hearts, daring builds confidence, sharing creates momentum, and you combine the three, you become someone who leaves a lasting imprint. Not because you demand recognition, but because your presence creates growth, and growth is unforgettable. Do you also know that there are two kinds of people in the world? Those who walk into a room and silently announce, "Here I am," and those who walk in and say, "Ha, there you are." The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. The first kind of person scans the room for attention. Who noticed me? Who acknowledged me? Who values me here? Their posture may look confident, their words may sound impressive, but underneath they are consuming. They pull energy, they dominate conversations, they stir every topic back to themselves. And if we're honest, we've all been that person at some point, needing affirmation, needing validation, needing to be seen. But the second kind of person, they enter differently. They are observant, they are attentive, they notice who is quiet, they sense who feels invisible. They don't demand the spotlight, they redirect it. And here's the truth of most people don't say out loud. Yes, rooms remember the second person, not because they were loud, but because they made others feel significant. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When people see you coming, do they feel pressure or peace? Do they brace themselves or relax? That answer reveals more about your life than your resume ever will. Because influence is not measured by how many people know your name. It is measured by how many people grew because you showed up. And here is where the intensity rises. You cannot invest in others if your ego needs to be the center. You cannot lift people while competing with them. You cannot create strength around you if you are threatened by it. Investment requires humility. It requires security. It requires the kind of confidence that say there is enough space for all of us to rise. But insecurity whispers something else. If they succeed, you shrink. If they shine, you fade. If they grow, you lose control. That voice has destroyed more potential partnership than failure ever could because insecurity turns allies into rivals. It turns collaboration into comparison, and comparison suffocates investment. There's a powerful instruction that says, if you cannot win, make the one ahead of you break the record. That statement is revolutionary. It means your success is not limited to your potential victory. If someone ahead of you breaks the record and you help them get there, you are part of that breakthrough. That mindset frees you. It frees you from jealousy. It frees you from rivalry. It frees you from small thinking because now your win is not confined to your own performance. It extends through people you strengthen. Imagine what would happen if instead of asking, how do I get ahead? You began asking, who can I push forward? That shift alone changes the trajectory of your life. And here's the hard reality. Some people will never invest in others because they are too busy proving themselves. But the strongest people, they build others quietly. And one day, they look around and realize they are surrounded by strength. And one day, you will look around and realize that strength surrounding you was built quietly, one act at a time. But here is the shift that changed everything for me. I stopped measuring investment by response and I started measuring it by integrity. Not did they appreciate it, but did I show up as the person I want to become? Because investment in others is not just about changing them, it's about refining you. Every time you encourage, you could criticize, you grow. Every time you open a door, instead of guarding it, you grow. Every time you celebrate someone else win without comparison, you grow. And growth is never wasted, even when it feels invisible. There is a maturity that develops when you continue to give strength without demanding spotlight. It stabilizes you. It frees you from emotional dependency. It makes you secure. And secure people are dangerous in the best way because they are not threatened by brilliance. They multiply it. So, yes, there will be reasons where you feel overlooked. There will be moments where your generosity feels unreturned. There will be times when you question whether it matters. But hear me clearly, it matters. Not because people clap, but because character compounds. And one day, the very discipline that felt thankless will become the foundation others stand on. Do not go weary. Do not shrink back. Do not let disappointment turn you inward. Keep investing, even when it feels quiet, especially when it feels quiet, because quiet season often produce deepest roots. There is a statement that challenges ego at its core. If you cannot win, make the one ahead of you break the record. That idea confronts something inside of all of us because most of us are wired to win, to lead, to stand out, to be recognized. And there's nothing wrong with excellence, but there's something transformative about choosing impact over applause. What if your greatest contribution in this season is not standing at the front, but pushing someone else forward? What if your assignment is not the spotlight, but the support? That is not weakness, that is maturity. There is a story in the scripture about a man named Barnabas. He saw potentials in a man others doubted. He opened doors when suspicion filled the room. He stood beside someone who would later become one of the most influential voices of his generation. Barnabas is not as quoted much, not celebrated as widely, but without him, history may have unfolded differently. That is the power of investment. Sometimes your name is not the headline, but your influence is the foundation. And here's the paradox. When you strengthen someone's success, you multiply your own legacy. Because success is not always vertical. Sometimes it is generational. Sometimes it is rational. And sometimes it is hidden. And hidden impact is often the most powerful. Let me ask you something deeper. Are you secure enough to help someone surpass you? To teach them everything you know? To connect them to opportunities? To celebrate when they shine brighter? That question exposes insecurity quickly because insecurity wants control, but confidence creates successors. The strongest people I know are not obsessed with being needed. They are obsessed with building others to stand without them. That is leadership, that is legacy, and that is freedom. Imagine if instead of competing with people around you, you are cultivating them. Instead of guiding your advantage, you are expanding their potential. Instead of asking, how do I stay ahead? You ask, how do I strengthen those beside me? That shift alone transforms your relationships. It transforms your influence. It transforms your purpose. Because now your success is not confined to your own capacity. It multiplies through the lives you build. And multiplication always outlives ambition. Let me be honest with you. There were seasons when investing in others felt exhausting. Seasons when I poured encouragement into people and received silence in return. Moments when I opened doors and wasn't acknowledged for it. Times when I believed in someone fiercely, only to watch them walk away without looking back. And if I told you that never affected me, that would not be true. Because when you invest in people, you are not just giving time, you are giving art. And art is costly. There were moments I quietly asked myself, is this even worth it? Why am I always the one reaching out? Why do I keep giving when it feels unnoticed? Have you ever felt that? You support, you encourage, you show up, but when you need strength, the room feels empty. That is the dangerous moment. The moment when generosity begins to feel foolish. The moment when you are tempted to shrink back, to protect yourself, to say, from now on, I will just focus on me. And honestly, that temptation is strong because self preservation feels safer than self giving. But here is what I learned in those quiet battles. Investment is not validated by applause, it is validated by alignment. You are not investing in people to control outcomes. You are investing because it reflects who you choose to become. There is a difference. If you invest expecting recognition, you will eventually grow bitter. But if you invest because generosity is your nature, you grow stronger. There is a powerful encouragement that says, do not grow weary in doing good, for in due seasons you will reap if you do not give up. Notice something. It doesn't say if people applaud you, it says if you do not give up. The harvest is tied to perseverance, not popularity. And here's something deeper than that took me years to understand. Sometimes the return on your investment does not come from the same person you poured it into. You help one person and another person opens a door. You encourage someone quietly, and years later, an unexpected opportunity appears. Life has a way of returning seeds through different fields. But if you quit planting, nothing grows. There was a season when I nearly stopped, not publicly, but internally. I was tired, tired of being the encourager, tired of being the connector, tired of being the one who lifted others. And in that season, I noticed something unsettling. When I stopped investing, I also stopped growing. My world became smaller. My perspective narrowed. My energy shifted inward. And inward is a lonely place, I must tell you. If you've been there, you will know what I'm talking about. It's a lonely place because when you live only for yourself, everything feels heavy. But when you live lifting others, even your burdens feel lighter. That doesn't mean it's easy. It means it's meaningful. And meaningful is stronger than easy. So if you are in a season right now where your investment feels unnoticed, hear this clearly. Do not confuse delay with absence. Growth is happening beneath the surface. Seeds are forming roots. Impact is spreading in ways you cannot measure. And one day you will look around and realize that the strength surrounding you was built quietly, one act at a time. But here is the shift that changed everything for me. I stopped measuring investment by response and I started measuring it by integrity. Not did they appreciate it, but did did I show up as the person I want to become? Because investment in others is not just about changing them. It's about refining you. Every time you encourage, you could criticize, you grow. Every time you open a door, instead of guiding it, you grow. Every time you celebrate someone else's win without comparison, you grow. And growth is never wasted, even when it feels invisible. There is a maturity that develops when you continue to give strength without demanding spotlight. It stabilizes you. It frees you from emotional dependency. It makes you secure. And secure people are dangerous in the best way because they are not threatened by brilliancy. They multiply it. So, yes, there will be seasons when you feel overlooked. There will be moments when generosity feels unreturned. There will be times when you question whether it matters. But hear me clearly. It matters. No, not because people clap, but because character compounds. And one day, the very discipline that felt thankless will become the foundation others stand on. Do not grow weary. Do not shrink back. Do not let disappointment turn you inward. Keep investing even when it feels quiet, especially when it feels quiet, because quiet seasons often produce the deepest roots. Most people think investment pays in applause, but the real dividends are quieter. They show up in ways you don't expect. When you consistently invest in others, something begins to surround you, and that is trust. Trust is more valuable than visibility. When people know you are not competing with them, they relax around you. When people know you celebrate their growth, they protect your name in rooms where you never entered. When people know you lift others, they begin to lift you. Not because you asked, but because influence reciprocates integrity. There is richness that forms when your life becomes a place of encouragement. Your phone rings differently. Your network strengthens organically. Opportunities begins to move towards you instead of you constantly chasing them. Why? because people are drawn to those who make them better. And here is something even deeper. When you invest in people consistently, you begin to see transformation that has nothing to do with care, career, or status. You see confidence rise in someone who once doubted themselves. You see courage awaken in someone who once felt invisible. You see stability form in someone who once felt scattered. That is dividend, not financial, but internal. There's a scripture that says, generous will always themselves be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. Generosity is not about excess, it is about posture, and posture determines flow. Closed hands struggle to receive, open hands always have something moving through them, and movement is life. Have you ever noticed how stagnant life feels when everything revolves around you? Your problems feel bigger, your fear feels louder, your disappointment feels heavier. But when you start focusing on lifting others, your own burden seems smaller because purpose expands perspective, and expanded perspective reduces anxiety. This is one hidden reward of investing in others. It frees you from obsession with yourself, and self obsession is exhausting. When you become a builder of people, your life begins to carry weight, not heavy weight, meaningful weight. The kind of weight that says someone is stronger because I showed up. And that is the dividend that no market crash can erase. But now we must go deeper because investing in others is not just an action, it is an identity. And identity determines consistency. So the real question becomes, who are you becoming? There comes a moment in every thoughtful life when success begins to feel incomplete. Not because achievement loses value, but because accomplishment alone cannot satisfy the deeper question forming within the human heart. What remains after me? At first, many people answer that question through ambition. They pursue stability, they pursue recognition, they pursue progress measured in visible outcomes, positions attained, goals completed, milestones reached. And there is nothing inherently wrong with growth. But eventually, experience teaches something quieter. Achievement impresses temporarily. Influence endures relationally. The promotion may be remembered for a season. The award may gather dust with time. Even remarkable personal victories slowly fade from collective memory. Yet the person who changed how someone believed in themselves, that memory survives. Because human beings do not merely remember events, they remember transformation. Think carefully about your own journey. Somewhere along the way, someone spoke words that altered your direction. Someone extended patience when you expected rejection. Someone created opportunity when you lacked access. Someone saw potential you could not yet recognize. Perhaps they never realized the magnitude of their impact. Perhaps what felt ordinary to them became pivotal for you. This is the mystery of investing in others. The most powerful moments often appear insignificant while they are happening. A conversation after disappointment, a message sent at the right time, guidance offered without obligation, encouragement given when confidence was fragile. Small moments carry lifelong consequence, and this reveals an uncomfortable truth. Many people underestimate their capacity for influence because they misunderstand where influence begins. They wait for authority, they wait for expertise, they wait for perfection. But investment does not begin when you have everything figured out. It begins when you choose availability over indifference. You do not need complete answer to strengthen someone. You only need sincerity. You only need willingness. You only need the encourage to care in a world increasingly conditioned toward detachment. because modern life subtly encourages isolation. Comparison replaces collaboration. Competition replaces community. Achievement replaces connection. People become cautious with encouragement, fearful that lifting another might somehow diminish their own standing. Yet, growth does not operate by subtraction. When one person rises through genuine support, possibility expands for everyone connected to them. Investment multiplies environment. Consider the teacher whose belief awakens curiosity in a struggling student. Years after, that student becomes a leader, influencing thousands. The original investment echoes far beyond its origin. Or the friend who refuses to abandon someone during a difficult season. That stability becomes the foundation upon which confidence rebuilds. Generosity travels further than intention ever predicts. And this is why investing in others requires vision beyond immediate reward. You may never witness the full harvest of what you plant. Some seeds mature in season you will not personally experience. Some encouragement reshapes decisions made years later. Some kindness interrupts cycles of discouragement passed through generations. Your influence moves forward even when your awareness does not. This realization changes how you approach daily life. Conversations become opportunities rather than obligations. Listening becomes contribution rather than passivity. Presence becomes ministry rather than routine interaction. You begin to understand that every encounter carries unseen potential. Every person you meet is navigating battles invisibly to casual observation. Every individual carries questions about what direction, belonging, and purpose. And sometimes the difference between surrender and perseverance is a single voice choosing belief. You may become that voice, not through grand speeches, but through consistency. Consistency communicates value more powerful than occasional inspiration. Showing up repeatedly tells people they matter beyond convenience. Remaining patient during another person's growth communicates trust. Offering correction with compassion communicates respect. True investment balances honesty with hope. It refuses to flatter, yet refuses to abandon. And over time, something extraordinary unfolds. You begin noticing growth not only in others but within yourself. Your perspective widens, empathy deepens, insecurity weakens because investing in others shifts focus away from constant self evaluation. You stop asking, am I ahead? And begin asking, who can I move forward because I was here? That question reshapes identity. Life becomes contribution rather than comparison. And strangely, fulfillment follows, not instantly, but steadily. There's a profound peace in knowing your presence contributes to the progress beyond personal success. You become less threatened by other person's advancement. Their victory no longer feels like competition. It feels like continuation because investment transforms success from individual achievement into shared expansion. And perhaps this is one of life's greatest paradox. Those who dedicate themselves to lifting others rarely remain stagnant. Growth returns through relationships formed, wisdom refined, opportunities created through trust. People remember those who strengthen them. Doors open where credibility exists. Influence grows where integrity has been demonstrated consistently. Without chasing recognition, recognition arrives. Without demanding loyalty, loyalty develops. Without pursuing legacy directly, legacy forms naturally. And one day, often unexpectedly, you may encounter someone whose confidence bears traces of your encouragement. Someone making courageous decisions influenced by conversations long forgotten by you. Someone extending kindness learned through your example. In that moment, realization quietly settles in. Your investment continued living beyond you. This is legacy, not monuments built of achievement, but lives strengthened through intentional presence. Legacy cannot always be measured numerically. It appears in restored confidence, in renewed hope, in courageous choices made because someone once believed. And this is the kind of impact transcends visibility. Even when unnoticed publicly, it reshapes futures privately. So refuse the temptation to measure your life only by personal milestones. Measure it also by strengthened people, by opportunities created, by encouragement sustained, by growth multiplied through relationship. Because at the end of every journey, one question remains profoundly significant. Who became better because you lived? Not richer, not impressed, but stronger. Stronger in belief, stronger in courage, stronger in purpose. Invest there again and again, quietly, faithfully, generously, and trust that no sincere investment in another human life is ever wasted. For long after individual accomplishments fade into memory, the influence you planted continues moving forward, through lives restored, through dreams revived, through generations strengthened. That is the return few anticipate. That is the inheritance of a life well lived. That is enduring power of investing in others. From this day forward, refuse to move through life passively. Refuse to enter rooms as a spectator of destiny. Refuse to drift through conversations without intention. Too many people exist physically present but spiritually absent, showing up without ever truly impacting the space they occupy. But you were not created to merely occupy space, you were created to influence it. Environment you step into is waiting for a decision you must make silently within yourself. Will I take or will I build? Because every interaction leaves a residue. People either walk away lighter or heavier, more hopeful or more discouraged, more confident or more doubtful. And whether you realize it or not, you are always contributing one of those outcomes. So decide today, wherever you go, growth will follow. Not because you are perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you choose to become intentional about the effect you have on others. Decide that people will leave conversations with you stronger than when they arrived. Decide that your presence will calm anxiety rather than multiply it. Decide that your words will heal more than they harm. The world already has enough critics, enough competitors, enough silent observers waiting for recognition. What it desperately lacks are builders of people. And building people requires courage because insecurity constantly whispers. If you help them, they may surpass you. Comparison whispers. If they shine, you may disappear. Fear whispers. Protect your advantage. But greatness speaks differently. Greatness understands something insecurity never learns. Helping others rise does not lower your position, it expands your influence. You were never designed to shine alone, you were designed to multiply light. So refuse to measure your worth only by personal advancement. Promotion without impact is empty. Success without contribution is fragile. Achievement without legacy fades quickly. Real fulfillment begins when your progress becomes a bridge others can walk across. Instead of asking, how far can I go? But begin asking, how many rise because I pass this way? Because true success is not proven by what you accumulate, but by what continues growing after you leave. Decide that insecurity will no longer dictate your posture. You do not need to shrink when others succeed. You do not need to compete for significance. There's no scarcity in purpose. Another person's breakthrough opportunity does not cancel yours. Another person's opportunity does not erase your calling. And when you truly understand this, generosity becomes natural. You begin sharing knowledge freely, opening doors willingly, encouraging sincerely, celebrating others without hidden tension, because you finally understand your value is not threatened by someone else's growth. It is revealed through it. Decide today that comparison will not poison your generosity. Comparison turns collaboration into rivalry. It transforms friendship into silent competitions. It steals joy from progress. But investment requires freedom from comparison. You cannot pour into someone while secretly measuring yourself against them. So release the scoreboard. Release the need to always appear ahead. Release the fear of being overtaken. Because those who invest in others never truly fall behind. They multiply influence in a ways statistics cannot measure. Decide that fear of being surpassed will not limit your investment. History remembers builders more than performers, mentors more than competitors, those who empower movements more than those who merely stood at the center of attention. You were not created merely to succeed. You were created to multiply, to strengthen, to elevate, to build, and understand this clearly. Building people is sacred work. It rarely trends. It often goes unnoticed. There may be no applause, no announcement, no visible reward. Sometimes the person you encourage may never return to thank you. Sometimes the seed you plant will grow far away from your sight, but invisible impact is still impact, and destinies are often shaped quietly. If you cannot win a moment, push someone else towards the breakthrough. If doors close before you, become a door for someone else. If recognition delays, recognize someone's effort, because investment shifts your focus from lack to purpose, and purpose restores strength. If you feel unseen, see someone else deeply. Look beyond surface conversations. Notice potential others overlook. Speak belief where doubt has lived too long. Many people are one sincere encouragement away from transformation, our reminder away from persistence, one moment of belief away from refusing to quit. You may never know how powerful your words become in someone else's lowest season. If you feel unsupported, become a support. This is one of life's paradoxes. The quickest way to experience encouragement is to give it. The fastest way to feel meaningful is to create meaning for others. The strongest communities are built by individuals who refuse to wait for help, instead became helpers, because the life that lifts others never remains empty. Investment always returns, though rarely immediately. And when discouragement whispers, why bother? Remember this truth. Character compounds, just like interest grows quietly in an account. Integrity grows quietly in a life. Seeds grow in silence. Roots form before fruit appears. And investment never returns void. Time may delay visibility, but it never cancels harvest. One day conversations you barely remember will echo in someone's decision. Advice casually given will guide major life choices. Kindness you considered small will become someone's turning point. Now, return to the question we began with. Do people live better than they found you? Not occasionally, not when convenient, not when you feel appreciated, but consistently. When tired, when unnoticed, when nothing seems to return immediately. Consistency transforms intention into legacy. If the answer is not yet what you desire it to be, today becomes your turning point. Not tomorrow, not someday, but today. Choose one person, encourage them, open a door, share insight, offer time, speak belief, create opportunities, and then repeat it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Because investment is not an event, it is a lifestyle. And slowly, almost invisibly, something begins to change. Your relationships deepen, your influence expands, your confidence stabilizes, your life gains meaning beyond personal achievement. Then one day, without warning, you will look around and realize something extraordinary. You are surrounded by growth, people thriving, lives progressing, dreams unfolding, and you will recognize that you are standing in a forest that grew from seeds you planted quietly. Sometimes the trees you watered with encouragement, sometimes with patience, some with belief when no one else believed. That is the dividend. That is the legacy. And that is the influence no title can grant and no circumstance can remove. Because the greatest investment you will ever make is not financial, it is human. And long after accomplishment fades, positions change, and recognition disappears, the people you strengthen will continue carry forward what you gave. So work differently from this moment forward. Speak intentionally, notice potential, build courage, multiply hope, invest relentlessly. Because lives change when someone decides to care deliberately. And perhaps the greatest truth of all is this: when you invest in others, you unknowingly become the person you were always meant to be. That is the power. That is the calling. That is the charge. The bottom line of everything is that investing in others is the only asset class that is truly recession proof. While market fluctuates and industries shift, the value you pour into people through your time, your knowledge, and your belief in them creates a legacy that pays dividends at the long run after you've left the room. You are only as successful as the people you help to bring along with you. We often spend our entire lives trying to build a kingdom for ourselves. We focus on heights of the walls, the shine of the crown, and the size of the vote. We are told that success is a solo climb, a vertical race where the goal is to stand on the highest peak and look down. But there is a quiet, cold truth to that kind of success. A kingdom is just a lonely patch of empty land if there is no one there to share it with. The most successful people I've ever met ain't the ones who climb the highest alone. They are the ones who reached back and grabbed a hand and pulled a dozen others up with them. They understood a fundamental law of human nature. Value isn't something you hoard, it's something you circulate. Think about the mentor in your own life right there. Think about that one person who saw a spark in you before you even knew how to strike a match. They didn't lose anything by giving you their time. They didn't become less than by making you more than. In fact, by investing in you, they ensured that their ideas, their values, and their hard earned wisdom would live on through your work. They turned their finite time into an infinite influence. This is what it means to build a, a people portfolio. In the financial world, we talk about diversification to protect against risk. In the human world, investing in others is your greatest edge against insignificance. When you invest in a colleague's growth, you ain't just helping them, you are building a more capable team that can carry the load when you are tired. When you sponsor a newcomer, you ain't just opening a door, You are ensuring that the industry you love stays vibrant and innovative for the next generation to come. We often hold back because we're afraid of the cost, just like what we said the other time. We think, I don't have enough time, or what if they surpass me? But that is scarcity thinking. The abundance reality is that a rising tide doesn't just lift one boat, it lifts the entire harbor. When people around you get better, the environment you live in gets better. Your network becomes more valuable. Your daily interaction become more sophisticated. Your world expands. You don't need a massive bank account or a fancy title to start this process. You just need to change your currency. Start using the currency of attention. Give someone 15 minutes of your undivided attention. In an age of digital distraction, focused attention is the highest form of generosity. Start using the currency of validation. Tell someone exactly what they are doing right. Most people are starving for a sign that their work matters. Start using the currency of connection. Introduce people who should know each other. It costs you nothing, but it creates a spark that could change the trajectory of two lives. As you move forward, ask yourself, am I just building a monument to myself, or am I building a foundation for others? One day, the titles will fade, the awards will gather dust, the numbers will be recalculated by someone else. But the impact you had on another human being, the way you made them feel, the skills you helped them master, and the belief you installed in them, that is permanent. That is the only investment that survives the test of time. So don't just build a kingdom, build a community, invest in people. The interest rates are infinite, the risk is low, and the impact lasts forever.